All right, so we're back doing these film discussions again, and today is on the good, the bad, and the ugly. So um, let's just start by Nick. I think you said you haven't seen it before, and Josh, this is your second time. But let's just start like usual with your initial thoughts on the film, and then who your favorite character was, the good, the bad, or the ugly, or someone else.
Okay. Let's see. I really liked it. Enjoyed the. I don't know. There's something about it. Yeah. Whenever I start watching a Western film, I'm always surprised that I don't watch more Western films on a regular basis, because I always really like them. So yeah, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed this one. I was really initially struck by, especially in the opening scene, just the close-up shot on people's faces throughout the entire film. That's not something I'm used to in a lot of those kinds of films, and but really started to enjoy it because I felt like it was it really, I don't know, it was a non-verbal way of getting you to invest in each of the characters in the story, which I thought was really cool. My favorite character, I don't know. I liked them all for different reasons, I think. I mean, Clint Eastwood, you know, he's just cool, right? And he just plays that up in the film. Almost, it was a little hard to take at the beginning, already stereotypical, even though I was reading that this was really his first major role that like projected him to stardom. So it was like Clint Eastwood before he was Clint Eastwood. So that was fun to see. But I also really liked the ugly Van Cleef. Is that his name?
Van Cleef was the bad, and then Eli Wallach or something is the ugly. Tuco.
Yeah, Tuco. Right. Yeah, I thought his character was great. And he just, as far as character progression goes and whatnot, I feel like he just got better and better as the movie went on. So, I don't know. It would probably be up to those two, though. I don't know. I could probably make a case for why I liked Angel's Eyes more, too. So, anyway, that's where I'm at.
That's funny. Josh?
Yeah, I also would say that I actually really liked watching the ugly character this time. He just, everything he did felt so in line with his character and like the spirit of his character, and I really liked that, the way he just just thinking even about at the very end, you know, Clint Eastwood has just been shooting at him, but now he sees that he's at the gravesite, he knows the name, or he thinks he knows the name, and so he's going to be just obsessed with finding the grave. And it was just really fun to see him, where like in the bathtub, he's just dumping the bath salts in, having a great time, but then he's also like ruthless and has his bath and his gun with him. He has the gun in the bath with him, so he can shoot that guy. And I really liked seeing the characters this time in contrast. Like when you see the ugly and Clint Eastwood walk down the street, the ugly's like checking around. He's scattered and he's obviously very good with a gun, but he's like, whereas Clint Eastwood's just walking down coolly and slowly. And I again really enjoyed it. I found the first third again a bit boring. I don't know if you watched the extended edition, but I guess on Netflix it's the extended English version. Like 3 hours. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. But the first third I think is good, but although I think before I'd watched the film through once, I tried to watch it a couple of times, and I'd always got stuck in that first third of the establishment of the characters. I just found it kind of slow. And I found, again, this time, I really enjoyed it after that first hour or so. I felt like it really picked up. But it's...
Yeah, I think, I mean, Clint Eastwood is always, you're drawn to him just because he's so cool, but I think Tuco is definitely the most fleshed out character. I saw Nick, you motioning like him crossing himself. Like he just has a lot of little quirks, and you also get to see more of his backstory. You read his brother, you see kind of how he got into the business. You get a little bit more of his motives and reasoning, which the other two are just kind of a little more caricatures, just because you don't get to see as many details. And I mean, Tuco just is really funny and always has these little lines and stuff. So I didn't remember, or this time I was struck by how much more I liked Tuco than I remembered. But yeah, I think the film. So Josh, when you said the extended edition, it's closer to the
Italian.
original Italian version. But they didn't have sound for some of it, so they re-recorded some of the dialogue and some of the scenes. I think some of the scenes might have been added in addition. I don't know. It was very complicated. I was trying to research like which version was the correct version, but so the trilogy that I mean the director didn't intend for them to be a trilogy, but the Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly were all by the same director and all had Clint Eastwood as a very similar character, and they were released separately in Italy, but when they came to America, they were actually all released in the same year. Like a few months apart. So, as Nick was saying, that's kind of these three came out and kind of I don't know solidified Clint Eastwood in the American mind as a Western hero. It is slow. I was struck by that, and it is really long. And so I actually wanted to ask if you guys felt the film was helped or hindered by. I mean, the plot is really minimal and the pacing is really slow. Do you think that having very little plot and a slow pace was helpful, or do you think it was a little too drawn out? Do you feel like you got more of the characters, or do you feel like it could have been trimmed down quite a bit?
I think, it did feel really slow, partly because we're not used to that kind of filmmaking, I don't think, so much anymore. Because really, I was thinking about this afterwards, I was struck by what a visual experience that film is. So much of the tension and drama is just in, the way the camera would pan from one character to another, to just holding the camera on one character drawing his gun out, or just slowly gripping his gun, and then panning to the next, and so in that way, I feel like you kind of have to take the film on its own terms, as just know that this is going to be more of a visual experience and less of a, fast talking, kind of fast paced plot, so to speak. And I think what really so I think what's his name, Sergio, did a really good job of like initiating you into that with the introduction of Angel Eyes at the beginning, where he's literally standing in the doorway. That's all he does for, I don't know, that scene must have gone on for like 5 minutes, and not a word is spoken, and it's just, he's looking at this other guy in his house, and his family's there, and they like sit down to eat, but then he gets them to move, so it's just this. As I was watching it, I was kind of taken aback by that, but I was also kind of weirdly drawn into it as well. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, those, I guess, mixed feelings.
That scene actually reminded me of the Inglourious Basterds scene, where the Jew hunter comes into the milkman's house. I don't know if have you seen that film?
I've seen it. I'm trying to remember that scene.
It's right at the beginning. The man's washing his face at the very beginning, and he's asking him where he's hiding the Jews, and they're under the floor. Obviously, it's a different ending, but there was that same sort of like, you just see the domestic life, and someone who's very proficient at what they do. That's very bad. Is going to find out some information. It's going to be slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that scene was very powerful. I thought.
It can be kind of confusing sometimes with those sorts of scenes, because I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to be feeling in that moment. Like, I don't know if something really bad is going to happen, which is what I normally want to think is going to happen in those moments of tension, especially at the beginning, 'cause it's just to like get things started. Or if I should like be, I don't know. It's weird. It's like tension in like the purest sense of the word. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Just we're going to keep filming it though.
Yeah, no, I think you picked up on something that I think is really key to this movie. It is very visual. There's not much dialogue, but yet there's so much told in the visuals and in the close-ups and in the faces and just in the holding on a long shot, and you just see like the family run out of the room and leave, the guy there to face Angel Eyes. And um, yeah, in many ways it's slow, but you get almost more information than if they just sat there and told you everything. Like if there's more dialogue, you're sitting in the room and you somehow know within a few minutes, you don't know immediately, but very quickly you realize, oh, this guy is coming for this guy, and everyone's afraid. People know I don't know. You just can tell through the shots and kind of how it's presented, which I think it is slow, but it's almost like that style requires it to be slow. You need time to sit with those shots and just let nothing happen, almost. I don't know.
Yeah, even the Western, the life in the West, it seems like, oh, a lot of these journeys are taking a long time. We're not really given how many days or weeks we are, the meetings are between each other, but it would be very unnatural to feel like, oh, this all fit in like a couple of days. This is definitely like a much longer journey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading Roger Ebert's review of the movie. He said he put it this way. He said the rule that Sergio Leone established a rule in this movie. The rule is that the ability to see is limited by the sides of the frame. At important moments in the film, what the camera cannot see, the characters cannot see. And that gives Leone the freedom to surprise us with entrances that cannot be explained by the practical geography of his shots. And so I think that ties into what you're saying, Nick, of like, it's just what you see, like the world is like encompassed with what the camera sees. And so often the camera is seeing what the characters see. Like, especially in the final showdown where all three of them are there, you get a close-up and you see their eye move, and then the camera moves to what they're seeing, and then you're like transitioning between what the characters are seeing.
Did anyone feel, by the way, although that scene is absolutely epic, that it felt a little bit like it ended anticlimactically with realizing that his bullets, that the Ugly didn't have any bullets? Did you feel that way at all?
Well,
I really liked it. Again, it's so epic during the whole thing, and then he gets shot, that's awesome, and then it felt like, oh, he never had bullets all along. This wasn't that intense of a moment. As intense as it felt.
Although they both shot at Angel Eyes, it's just Tuco didn't have any bullets. Yeah. But
yeah.
I mean, you get like 5 minutes of build-up, and then one guy dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of I didn't expect it to end that way. So again, I'm with you. I really liked it, but I also was kind of at the end. I was, I don't know, the character. Well, I don't know, it left me feeling kind of having like mixed emotions about him, like because he seems like one of those characters that he's, he doesn't say a whole lot, and he's not as sadistic as Angel Eyes, but he's not an oaf or a weird guy like Tuco. So he's just like that calm, cool, collected guy who's dangerous but always is in control of everything. And yeah. I feel like that last scene, that was kind of like the final stamp on sort of understanding his character in one way. Like he's always calm, cool, collected, and then he kind of works things out in the end. Which I don't know. I think part of me wanted in the end to see that he was not quite as in control of things as I was led to believe in the beginning.
Well, yeah, and part of that would be it'd be a bit more chivalrous or like honorable, right? To actually allow them all to have the duel. But again, he's kind of revealed to be in that way a little bit like the bad guy who may seem like he's doing something nice for you, but is always going to be doing something that's in his best interest. And
right. Yeah, which I think actually I was thinking about that later too. Is why do they call him the good? Which
yeah.
Ask that of any of the characters. Why do they call him the ugly? Like he didn't strike me as being particularly ugly, but maybe there's something more to the name. And so anyway, so thinking about like why do they call him the good when he is clearly capable of the same sort of evil deeds that Angel Eyes is, I think.
Well, and even in his setup, I thought it was weird to see like the ugly. And actually, the ugly, I liked that as a name as far as like that, like the way his character is, not just his appearance, but like the ugliness of his character. But
Yeah.
the good setup is not good. He's like helping it's a criminal. Well, he kills someone who's taking people who are bravely taking in a criminal, and then he's letting him loose again, and then eventually letting him loose again, and killing him, and
Yeah,
that's Hearthstone.
right. He's intentionally operating outside the rule of law, but somehow he's still good. I will say, I think probably the only answer I can come up with why do they call him the good was actually answered in that scene towards the end when he runs across that what looks like a kid who is injured and dying alone, kind of in the wreckage there before Tuco goes off on the horse, and he like gives him a cigar and he puts his jacket over him. I was like, oh, like maybe he's the good because he's the only one of the three who has like a touch of humanity to him.
Yeah.
Just a touch, though. Because you don't get that. Angel Eyes, he's just beating the crap out of people and killing people willy-nilly, and Tuco's he is just all hyper-focused on money. And the only reason he keeps Clint Eastwood character alive is Blondie. The only reason he keeps Blondie alive is because Blondie knows something that will help him get money, you know. So I guess you don't get that same sense of human tenderness in some way. I don't know.
You see that when he has the captain who's dying, and he's saying, you know, keep an ear out, and they're going to blow. You know, you see him a couple of times caring for others in a way that the ugly and McBad don't seem to have any real substantial feeling for. Any other kindness is only apparent kindness or on the surface.
But then at the same time, he'll turn around and leave Tuco, you know, penniless and horseless 70 miles outside of town. Like, okay, I guess he just doesn't regard Tuco as human.
Yeah, it seems like the contrast of the good and the bad is almost. I wonder if it's almost. Clint Eastwood seems to be able to read people and their motivations and use that to manipulate them, but like in a way that the only reason it's better is because he doesn't have someone beat them up to get the information he needs like Angel Eyes does. Like he kind of like tricks people into thinking it's their own idea to get, I don't know, like but in some senses he is doing the exact same thing as Angel Eyes. It's somewhat nicer, but in the end they're both going for the gold.
Yeah, and I thought it was a insightful moment when Angel Eyes kind of, after he's beaten up Tuco and he brings Blondie in and he's like, you know, he basically tells him Tuco talked, and Blondie was like, well, aren't you going to do the same thing to me to get me to talk? And he's like, no. And he's like, why not? He's like, because the difference between you and Tuco is that you know it won't save you if you talk anyway, so you won't. And I was like, that was an interesting character development moment. So he's as a character, the good, he's like clearly insight. He can see kind of past. I don't know. He can see maybe like past appearances, or he can see kind of into situations in a way that the other two characters maybe don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like both Blondie and Angel Eyes are both very intelligent and can read lots of situations. I wonder if it's like good. I mean, they're in a very harsh environment, and we could talk more about kind of the environment this movie is set in, but it seems like maybe the difference is that Blondie, while he makes Tuco think he's going to hang him at the end, ends up setting him free and letting him live, whereas we know Angel Eyes wouldn't do the same. I don't know.
What were you saying with that, Ben? That's showing again that he's good?
Yeah, that in the same situation, Angel Eyes wouldn't let Tuco live.
I read that Sergio, or another name for it, possibly could have just been the man with no name, which I would have loved so much more. Well, actually, I don't know if I would have loved it so much more, but I think that'd be such a cool tie-in to Clint Eastwood's character, as well as the fact that the grave is the man with no name, right? that kind of would bring it. You would think the whole time, oh, it's Clint Eastwood is the man with no name, but really it's the grave of the man with no name.
Mm-hmm.
But
Whereas,
yeah, so,
I would be. Oh, yeah, I would like that a lot better too. Right? This idea of like when you die, you have no name anyway. Like whether you were good, bad, or ugly, you are nameless. That's interesting. I was also thinking about their characters too, in light of sort of the theme of violence that's running through the film, and thinking about I wonder if each of the characters are supposed to be a kind of different way in which violence is manifested or dealt with between all the characters. Because I feel like that's a common thing, like we were just saying earlier, like none of them shy away from being violent in any way.
mm-hmm.
And I wonder if their names are supposed to kind of clue us into, I don't know, how we respond or interact with violence or deal with violence on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean the film is set in the Civil War, and I don't know, you get the sense from the captain that, I mean, he's obviously talking about how needless all the violence and death is, and that they're just fighting over a bridge, and that they're just wasting lives, and so like the whole movie is set within this a war that is people killing each other for not no reason, but it's a very needless war, and so there's just, you're surrounded in violence, and then make you bring up an interesting point of, is it just violence is a given in this environment, and it's kind of three different ways to use violence or approaches to violence that these characters are showing us.
and what would the approaches be? You're just saying so the ugly would be just whenever he wants to take something to take it. The bad is going to be calculated and with conceal his ability to be as violent as he is, and I'm not sure how does Clint Eastwood use his violence, if necessary.
Yeah, I think it's if necessary, and also almost like he has to be violent to survive. But when there's, I mean, Nick brought up some points of places in which when the opportunity is there, he doesn't have violence. He gives the guy his cigar, he gives him his jacket. Like it seems almost in this place that if you aren't violent, you're gonna die. You need to, in order to survive, you have to be violent. But when you have the chance, you don't show it. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine how that scene with the soldier who's dying at the end would have played out differently with if it was Tuco who had run into him, or if it was Angel Eyes who had run into him. And I feel like if Tuco ran into the kid who was dying, he probably would have patted him down for all of his money, like checked to see if he had gold teeth, and then maybe killed him. And I feel like Angel Eyes probably would have just walked up and said, "Let me put you out of your misery, son," and just kill him, sort of thing. So I don't know what that's. I don't know. That's just conjecture, but I don't know what that might say as far as how violence is manifested in each of these characters. The good, though, also seems to not be interested in violence unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Again,
yeah.
Yeah, I would want to say that as well, and I'd want to say that the good is, pretty honorable and courageous. But then I started to realize these moments where I was thinking either he's not that interested in being too violent or he's being kind of courageous. I realized he's doing that for the money. Like the violence to kill the bad's men was because he wants to get rid of him so he can go get the money with the ugly. And when he's being courageous, walking down that street to face them down, he's planning to kill them, so again, they won't stop him getting the money. It's kind of funny that his cause is very base, but who seems to pursue it? We want to think he's noble, but even though he's pursuing such base means, or base.
Yeah.
Because that's not necessary violence, right? You don't have to go get $200,000 and kill people along the way for it.
But he's not as motivated as some of the others by just money. Otherwise, he would take it all. Like there's still seems to be some honor in letting Tuco keep his half. Like that was kind of what they agreed to. And yeah, he takes Tuco's bullets out, but I mean, Tuco's been trying to kill him this whole time. So it's like kind of hard. It's like there's honor and there's also, I mean, it seems that survival is almost is higher than anything else in this world. There's two kinds of people in this world: those with loaded guns and those who dig.
It seems also a pretty sad picture of the sort of harsh conditions that you have to be kind of strong to survive, but also if you're not strong, you may survive, but it's kind of at the mercy of the strong people around you. So again, that family who the bad comes along, they're living a happy life, you know, you don't know how happy, but you know, their kids doing his chores, the husband and wife are together with their kids, and that can all be just destroyed by someone coming along with a gun, and there's no justice for them. You're not even going to think about justice for them for the rest of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Very sad view. As well, like, you have the Civil War, and then you also have just other innocent bystanders who are going to suffer the violence of these men.
Yeah, unlike most, actually thinking about it, like unlike most westerns, I can't remember a time where we see like a sheriff or a deputy.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no one pursuing them. They're only each other.
And then, yeah, and it's out like whenever there is some justice being done, it's because some other outlaw grabbed Tuco or whatever. Like it's just a bunch of outlaws capturing each other for the money.
Yeah. They're weirdly isolated.
Yeah, it makes it feel very lawless, right? The only real threat is if you run into an army, and that's only really because the army is so many hundreds of men, not because, you know.
It's a very, I mean, as far as the world that they inhabit, it's very chaotic. Like there's very little law anywhere. I mean, it's kind of in the background, like small counties, like, you know, want to impose the rule of law, but they rarely ever come in contact with that, and when they do, they easily get out of there. And then they end up in a war multiple times, where it's just like, just depending on the uniform you wear will determine how well you're treated or not. Yeah, and
actually, when you say getting out of it easily, again, they seem to be the big players. When Angel Eyes sees Tuco getting hanged and he's not doing anything, he sees that Clint Eastwood is about to free him. Mm-hmm. And he's the one who has the power to let Clint Eastwood free him or not, and he just lets it go. But makes you feel even more so like people enforcing justice are really oblivious, and Clint Eastwood can just shoot the hats off of them and they can run away into the distance, and there's no sense of, oh, well, they'll pursue you, and you're probably going to get caught by justice.
Yeah, that's true. They're weirdly isolated, and though they're kind of not really friends, they all seem to kind of be in league with each other too. Because Angel Eyes saw him and he's like, oh yeah, he's got a blonde-haired angel looking over him, and then he just gets in the cart, and then Angel Eyes frees him. So you're like, well, you know what's gonna happen, right? Wouldn't that be big money for you? Like, if you were to capture both of these guys?
Yeah, it is interesting. It seems though they're all equally violent, only Tuco has a price on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
By the way, when Tuco gets the gun from that gunsmith, that's such a funny scene. You feel so bad for the guy, but it's such a funny sort of scene of Tuco just, you know, making the right gun, and he's rubbing his head, as Tuco slams down the gun, the guy who's the shop owner is just unhappy with everything. But he's so powerless to do anything, right? Even though he's got a full of guns.
And go ahead, Nick.
Oh, I was just gonna say, part of what makes that funny too is the shop owner just knows, like, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Oh, you want
I own a gun store.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever, just go.
Well, and I love how it turns from how much does it cost to how much money are you going to give me to shoot this gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually confused in that scene at first because as he kept raising the price, I was like, wait a second, is the shop owner going to stick up for himself? Is that? And I was like, oh wait, like he's talking about money's going to go to Tuco.
Although I was uncertain because it did look a little like Tuco himself was confused, but maybe that's what he was planning all along. When the man kept rising, maybe he was just surprised that he kept raising the money. It was a fun scene.
Yeah.
So reflecting on these, I wonder, like, if going back to the role of violence in this film, if like so most of the side characters in this movie are kind of expendable. They don't usually say much, or they die quickly. But the one significant one, well, you have a few significant ones. You have Tuco's brother, and then you have the Civil War captain. And I haven't. The Civil War captain just kind of stuck with me, and I'm not sure what to do with him. But he has probably the most dialogue out of most of the characters in the film, and he's probably the most philosophical out of anyone. Like he's facing a reality and is not sure what to do with it, and so I want to say it's significant to how the film is framed as a whole, but I'm not. I don't know. What do you guys? Do you think the film agrees with the captain? Do you think there's any relation to his views? Do you just feel it gives an insight to the period, or I don't know?
Yeah. I think for me it doesn't make. Although I don't like the outlaws, or part of me doesn't like them being outlaws. I think the captain makes me feel that the Civil War isn't that great either. Like I don't feel, oh, they'd be better if they enlisted. I think the captain feels spot on, and that you see the battle, them fighting over the bridge, and you want the bridge to be destroyed because you think this is ridiculous. They're just some people dying, and then they're just going to fight again. I think, yeah, he seems to, although he's drunk, he seems to be to understand the situation well.
Yeah, his character was really interesting to me too. I feel like he was kind of a fourth element of, or almost kind of like a fourth character, and could have in some ways been like a fourth title character, because he is kind of thrown into the same mix of all this violence and chaos around him, but instead of having something like money to sort of motivate his actions, he just turns to alcohol, and he's, and it's just kind of like, I'm just trying to cope with the stupidness of all of this. And
wouldn't I think the lives of his men would motivate his actions, but he feels bound by being court-martialed and the laws of being a captain and things like that.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Yeah, he's of the four, he's kind of under the law. Significant way that the other three aren't.
And in this case, it's keeping him from doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. He's not free to do what's right.
And once again, throughout the whole movie, you don't feel like what's right would be to do what the authorities are saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, you fighting over the bridge, or...
Yeah, I feel like there's a very poignant. I mean, I feel like as a movie, it's a very poignant satire on society in general, though obviously also on war and that sort of thing. Because you definitely feel the deep sense of meaninglessness of war in the movie. But I feel like there's also some subtle hints of like, well, what's the... So one question I've been thinking about, like, what is the place of violence in, I don't know how to complete the sentence or complete the question, but like, what is the place of violence in our world, in this chaotic world, or How should we deal with that in light of sort of these laws and stuff we've set up for ourselves, which also seem to be equally arbitrary and meaningless because Blondie and Tuco get away with breaking the law all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not even any. The film never seems to cast any judgment on which side you're on of the Civil War. Like, unlike most Civil War films, it's like, oh, this is the good side and this is the bad side. It just seems like you want to stay out of whichever side is against you, but there's no, this side is obviously in the right or this is the wrong. And the one scene where you are actually in the war, not to see troops pass through, it is arbitrary who wins or loses. They're not even fighting for freedom or secession or anything. They're just fighting over a bridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that moment where they're watching them kind of storm the bridge, and Blondie has that line of, he said something like, I've never seen so many men's lives wasted, or I've never seen so many men wasted. And so just charging each other with bayonets and stuff. I don't know, I feel like that was, for the few lines that he had, that one had a lot of weight to it as you were watching all of that stuff go down.
And it's a routine. Every morning the cannons go off, and then at a certain point they all rush the bridge. Like it's just, they're doing the same thing over and over again to no end.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is Sergio Leone just saying, especially with the way the movie ends, like, Blondie is the best we can hope for in this kind of this violent world we find ourselves in? Like, we just all gotta hope to have a touch of humanness to us.
Yeah, because he gets the kind of traditional hero riding off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going by the tropes, we would assume that he's the hero we need to look out for. The one who can save us.
It's depressing. Like, oh.
Yeah, that's interesting because he doesn't seem like the model for everyone. But I was trying to think of this question. Is he the hero or not? Because he seems like, in some ways he's set up as the hero, and yet in others his actions kind of make him seem to be like an anti-hero, or have many characteristics you wouldn't expect of the hero. But he does, again, kind of save the captain in that way. He's going to care for the dying man. And he does do some of these good things, but doesn't. I don't know. There were a lot of things that troubled me this time about his character that felt like, although maybe he can help us, he is not a very good person. Again, I know we've been going back and forth and saying that he's doing these good things or he's withholding from violence, but I can't get out of my mind that he is going to torture Tuco and make him think he's going to strangle himself, get hung at the end. And if he hadn't shot the rope off, or Tuco had reached for the gold too soon, Tuco would have just died. He wouldn't have been able to shoot the rope off, fast enough. I don't know. That doesn't seem good. It's not a game to hang a man, but you're planning to, once you get 200 yards away, you'll shoot the rope off of his.
But again, I think I saw that more as Blondie protecting himself. Like, if he didn't do that, he wouldn't have enough time to get away from Tuco before Tuco tried to do something to steal his gold or something. Like, it's part of putting Tuco in his place, but it's also it buys him time to get away from Tuco. And I wonder if part of this movie is just saying if you have a touch of humanity, you need to survive so that you can give that touch of humanity when you can. But part of surviving is not necessarily being a good person. In order to survive, you have to do unsavory things. But maybe it's better if Blondie survives so that he can somehow bring justice to Angel Eyes, or at least get rid of him. Maybe it's not justice. Maybe he's just at least getting rid of the worst person, and he's able to contain Tuco, and he's able to do nice gestures. I don't know. It seems violence is a given in the world of this movie.
I also see. I think if Blondie really is the good character and the hero in the story, I think that's an interesting commentary too on what it what it means to be good in this world, because maybe the temptation is like, well, at least like you were saying with the stereotype and the usual tropes in this sort of Western movie is that the good guy is the law-abiding character. He's you know, the enforcer of the law sometimes. Sometimes it's the sheriff. Sometimes, so there's this sense in which like being a good citizen is being good. And I think in this movie you're getting, if it is the case that he is the hero, that you're getting a different message, a different story, which is that no, abiding by the laws isn't always good. And yeah, so I don't know. I kind of doesn't necessarily clarify things as much as make me wonder about, well, what does it mean to be good in a world of violence? Does it mean to abstain from violence, or no? I also have like themes of Flannery O'Connor running through my head as well when I'm thinking about this. I don't know if there's any direct connection there, but that's just what I'm thinking about.
Another argument, and in line of Ben saying, getting rid of the bad and containing Tuco, and how violent should you be, or what's the place of violence? We do see that the general with the gangrene leg, who knows that the bad is bad but can't do anything about it because, again, he's kind of bound by the law and he has to go through this process. He needs enough evidence. That's kind of coming to mind when we're thinking of these things of, yep, nope, Blondie gets rid of the bad in that way it's kind of heroic that he saves the world from a character like that. But he has to kill him. The man with the gangrene leg wasn't going to get him.
Yeah, he's rendered. Yeah, I think that's a good example. He's rendered kind of impotent as a good person.
Yeah, by being an outlaw, perhaps Blondie is able to do more good, but he also does bad. But it seems he at least serves a role in this world where the actual good people are withheld from doing what is necessary by the laws of society, and maybe by being less good, Blondie is able to serve a role in doing the good that others can't, while, like, in some ways tainting his own soul.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's interesting. Because the two big things he does, so the blowing up the bridge and the killing the bad, both of those things, like the law, good people were aware that needed to happen but couldn't do it. And although Blondie, not everyone could be Blondie, Blondie is helping. Yeah, maybe, and that's interesting about tainting his own soul, like he's. Maybe we need some good outlaws. Kind of like the inclination we want to have a Robin Hood, right? We want to have someone who's kind of going to. We don't think it's good to steal, even if you're stealing from the rich, but we kind of want to have someone who's going to steal from the rich and give to the poor. There's something in us that feels like, yeah, we should mostly listen to the police and the law and the generals and things like that, but it'd be good if we have some people doing some vigilante justice. We maybe need a little bit of that.
Yeah, vigilante, like he's the Western Batman or something.
Yeah. I'll blow up the bridge.
So yeah, he's not the traditional hero, but in some ways
we deserve. But
yeah.
Because you don't get the feeling that everyone should be like him, right? Everyone could be like him, but you don't want everyone to be like him.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like he's in no way a character I would aspire to be. At least I hope I wouldn't. And yet I still kind of have to call him good. So it's a weird. I don't know. I guess it's a weird tension that Sergio, I think, is drawing our attention to. It's like sometimes the people who are doing the best for our society are the people that we kind of don't like and have reservations about, and maybe even outright hate. to some degree.
Yeah, I wonder, like, it's interesting to think of what would the world be like with, or at least the world of the film be like without Blondie. Like, if his role wasn't there, like, what would they be missing?
Yeah. Well, I think with the other two characters, the other two are just so much more reckless than Blondie is. Blondie still maintains some amount of reservation about the things that he actually does.
You
Whereas
don't think the Bad does that as well?
who?
The Bad? You don't think Angel Eyes does that as well?
I don't know. I guess I was wanting to draw a distinction between the Bad being calculating, like he's definitely being intentional about what he does, but he really has no problem with just killing and committing acts of violence. And it's not to say that Blondie has a problem with committing acts of violence as much as he'll withhold himself. Like I feel like, again, if you were to put Blondie in the shoes of Angel Eyes there at the beginning when he returns to that Confederate soldier, that soldier who's sick in bed after it's the guy who pays him the $500.
Yeah.
Go kill the other guy at the beginning. Like, I feel like Blondie wouldn't have killed him the way Angel Eyes did. Which I don't know. Yeah. So to me, I feel like that's a moment of that's a significant difference in the two characters.
When you say, by the way, Nick, that the Angel Eyes is quite calculating, it struck me that there is a kind of cool distinction of Angel Eyes being really like calculating and very smart but very heady, and then the Ugly is obviously very like just desirous and appetitive, and he takes what he wants, and that's what he's thinking about. And then Blondie is very like spirited and like someone's like courageous, but also a compassionate one.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I think I am kind of thinking that in the back of my head, because anytime I see groups of three in literature, got done. Plato. It's all in Plato. But yeah, I think there's some truth to that, and I think that's probably helpful for understanding them as characters. Though, yeah. Oh, that would be interesting to think about. Like if they had all joined together and used their powers.
With our powers combined.
Yes, with their powers combined, right? They could have done the ultimate good in the world that they were in. But I think, like what we were saying earlier, they are, as a group of three, they're very isolated. And seem to kind of be in league with each other, but they're also kind of isolated from each other, in that they don't ever really trust the other person.
And each one kind of gets a moment of having kind of power over one or both of the other three. Like, there are points in which Tuco has the upper hand. There are times with both of them that Blondie has the upper hand, and there's time, like each of them kind of, the power switches between each of them depending on the circumstance.
Interesting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although you get the sense that with Blondie, he's never fully out of control. Like, there are points in which he may be powerless, but you still get the sense that he's in control of the situation.
Kind of, yeah. That was weird for me when he's being hung by Tuco the first time. I didn't understand what he was expecting to happen. I mean, he got saved, and that's great, but I'm not sure if he was planning on that. And I want to say he looked like he was in control, but he was about to die if the bombshell didn't come or the bomb didn't come and shell the building.
Well, he seems to be, as a character, like his disposition, he's always seems to be pretty resigned to whatever happens.
Yeah.
Like, yep, all right, I might get hung. Okay. There's nothing he recognizes there's literally nothing I can do about this. But that doesn't change the way he responds to a situation.
That's good. He's going to be in control of himself.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that's that resignation that he has. He just shows that about everything. And if we don't maybe misinterpret that as he's always in control.
Yeah, the only time I can think of where he really doesn't seem to be either resigned or self-possessed is when he's in the desert and Tuco's washing his feet and he's reaching for the water. Um, because anyone else could tell Tuco's going to knock it away. Tuco's not going to let him have it. That he's going to try to still reach out because he feels like he has to and try to get the water. He's not just resigned to say, well, Tuco will give me water if he wants me to drink.
Yeah, because in the same situation, when if Tuco if Blondie has the noose, I mean you see it later. Like he tells him to put the noose on, and Tuco just like pleading for his life. He's freaking out, but then like there's just two different reactions. And in some ways, you're right. It is just resigned. He's not going to freak out. He's just going to he never seems to be unsettled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is weird if we're gonna place him in the category of like the spirited person, right? Like the chest or the heart of the three characters. So I don't normally think of that part of the soul as being the part of the soul that's just resigned to everything.
Yeah, and maybe resigned. I mean, maybe you could take it as. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say with the caveat that the whole tripart soul thing here might not be won't be a perfect map for understanding characters, but. That is an interesting aspect of his character.
Yeah, I think that is kind of true. I just lost what I was going to say.
No, sorry.
Oh, that's good. Here would be the last, or another pitch I would give for it is the only one who we see out of the three that's really not self-controlled is the ugly. And in that way, the other two, neither of them would beg for their life, right? Either the head or the spirited part. So in that way, you could make that argument that Blondie's not alone, although we see him as the only one who's actually has a noose around his neck. That they both are self-controlled, and the only one who's really not is the one who's driven by his appetites and his desires and things like that. Which, by the way, I love when you see him the first time. He has like a chicken in his hand, and he's just like shot someone, and he's like, it's such a fantastic like.
Right. I also love he, like reached his hand into a boiling pot of potatoes. That's hot water, man. He just kept reaching, and then he peeled the potato with his. I don't know. That was a great scene. I love that scene.
That's funny. Yeah. Actually, I didn't even think of it. It was boiling. I just thought it was hot. So.
Yeah, well, it wasn't showing. I mean, there weren't bubbles coming up, but I'm thinking like someone's cooking potatoes in a pot of water. Like it's gotta be really hot.
Oh, 1 second.
So I get. Well, we'll get Josh's opinion once he gets back. But so the music, I'm sure you've heard it before. You've seen this movie, but how did you feel? It played to the film now that you actually watched it with the film.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask. I didn't get a chance to look it up. But is that music the original score for that movie?
Yeah,
okay.
That's where it came from. This movie.
Okay. I wasn't sure if they were taking that from, because I think I read like the Rawhide TV series or something. I don't know if you know anything about that was going on or had just ended when this movie came out, and so I was wondering if that music was coming from there. But anyway, I thought that it's so funny, like when you have associations with music like that, apart from where it originated, and then you're listening to it and you're watching it and you're like, oh, that's just like this other movie, or I think doesn't Kill Bill have some of that music filtered into?
Yeah, I mean, Tarantino has said that Sergio Leone is his favorite director, and that Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the best directed movie of all time. So,
wow, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I was seeing a lot of Quentin Tarantino in it, but so I had like scenes from Kill Bill like playing in my head as I was watching the movie because of the music. So I was wondering if that was where it originated. It also reminded me too of like the first time I saw or heard the Valkyries music in the actual Wagner opera, and then all I could think about was Bugs Bunny in my head because that's where I originally heard the music, sort of thing. So no, so I thought it was yeah, it was really good. Obviously, very iconic, and used in lots of other places. And I liked the way it felt like he would kind of drop the music in kind of just periodically. They didn't ever feel like there was a continuous soundtrack to the movie as much as it was like snippets of different pieces of a longer piece of music that were used much more strategically than as just kind of background noise for while other scenes were going on.
Yeah, which makes it stronger when it comes in, because you have that juxtaposition of no music, and then when it comes, it has even more emotional impact.
Yeah.
The scene that comes to mind is the one where Tuco's being tortured, and the music is brought in, and it's supposed to be aware that the music is brought in, and it's very moving.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the moment when the fiddle player stops playing.
Oh no, yeah.
And then so oh man, yeah, that was really good, because then he stops playing because he knows what's going on, and then as soon as the guy tells him to start playing again, and he starts to play, it cuts immediately to when Tuco's getting like punched and beaten up in a way, and the violin in that moment just like bursts, and you're like, I don't know, it has whole new meaning. That sound just took on new meaning when you paired it with the scene itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. I think we covered quite a bit. We're up to our hour, but yeah, I think this was definitely helpful as I process this film, thinking about the violence and everything. And the next film we'll be watching is A Hard Day's Night. So I know it's on Hulu, but you might be able to find it other. But Josh will like it. It's the Beatles. Yeah, it's really good. And I'll get back to you on a date, but probably like later in October. So.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for starting this up again.
Yeah.